National parks are really important to bring a broad perspective, a coherence to managing some really special places and special landscapes, to coordinate what's going on in the area, to make it a really great visitor experience, but also really importantly to look after and invest in the nature that's here and to look at how we can use our natural resources, for example, to fight climate change and to help communities be resilient in the area.
We're Scotland's first national park, so it's a bit of a USP for us, being able to promote ourselves as being situated right in the heart of Scotland's first national park. It's been great, allows us to market the business to both domestic and international tourists. We are generally very supportive of being in the national park from a business point of view.
Our experience is a positive one overall with the park. I think the park's been really vital in kind of pooling land managers together within the park for delivery of natural heritage conservation.
We are the full planning authority for the area, so we produce a local development plan which supports development in the right places. We deal with all the planning applications. We're the access authority for the area, so we have core path plans and we invest in the access networks.
Firstly, as a planning authority, whilst that implies constraints, I think it's more about a set of overarching policies and guidelines that help us to get things right and for planning consents to fit with that strategy.
We have a great relationship with the planning within the national park and have done for 20 years. Because I think we work that closely, it allows the park to have an input, and it has ultimately shaped and dictated what we have done and developed over the last 20 plus years. I would say that they've been a great addition and they're very open to working with us.
The park has the ability to call in planning applications that they feel could impact on the park. That is good in that it prevents sort of inappropriate development within the park. Having the park as a planning authority is definitely beneficial for the main kind of objective of the park in terms of looking after the landscape and wildlife.
This national park has a really strong role to play in climate change. We're looking to not only be a net zero place before 2040, but also be a really significant sequester of carbon. Also there's the adaptation side to climate, so how do we, through doing that, hold water, slow down water in the landscape to stop some of our communities being affected by flooding. And then also we need to think about our carbon footprint. We have a lot of people travelling in the area who are emitting carbon from transport. By providing more sustainable transport services and active travel, there's an example there of how we can reduce the carbon footprint.
The National Park have key objectives in relation to working towards being carbon neutral. They're definitely quite focused as well on making the most of our natural landscapes and what that can offer us in terms of tackling the climate and biodiversity emergency. What they've done is they've looked at the park, taken an overview of the park as a larger scale unit than the individual estates, and they've kind of prioritised conservation action for that area. And then they're helping and trying to encourage people to kind of align with those and work towards those objectives on different estates, and they're putting their resources into trying to make that happen. It's given a more strategic landscape scale view to nature conservation, which I think is one that's needed and beneficial in the long run.
All our future plans have all green credentials right at the forefront of that. We work really closely with the National Park in this, so we've been used as an exemplar within the park as a business that's trying to do all the right things.
Climate change is really already affecting our community. Recent weather events have had a major local effect on homes and businesses and our civic communities. The park's next local development plan and our own local place plan will give us an opportunity to work more thoughtfully on tackling climate change and habitat restoration, perhaps beyond the constraints of annual accounts.
Our way of working with communities has been similar from day one in that we're working with them to support them identifying what their own priorities are, and then also support them to take on some of the projects themselves. We've got a really good network of community development trusts, and we try to support them to get funding and to address some of the projects that they want to do. The challenges and the opportunities have changed over the 21 years that we've been a national park. When the national park was originally created, it was already a very heavily visited area, so the focus was very much on improving the visitor facilities, improving the economic benefits for the area from visitors. Now we're seeing much more, those things are still important, but much more of an emphasis on how we actually manage the landscape positively to restore nature and to try and mitigate the impacts of climate change. We've got a big 720 square miles chunk of Scotland to work in there to really look to achieve those outcomes.